Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing really well. So, today I want to speak about accepting the part of you that you are right now. So, this is just something that I have experienced, and I felt like sharing it with a lot of you that when we go through any kind of a spiritual awakening process, herein, of course, we have been majorly awakened by the twin flame journey. Many of us may have already been on the spiritual path, many of us may not have been. It's all right. There are various stages of a spiritual awakening that you go through. So, all of these stages are basically about the loss of identity, that you have with your former self. That specifically is what I want to talk about. And if you want to learn more about the stages of spiritual awakening, I was just seeing this video by Christina Lopes, and she has made this detailed explanation about the 6 stages of spiritual awakening and tips to manage them, or something like that. So you can actually see that if you want to, just look it up online. She's very famous, and she's got some good meditations as well on her website. If you feel guided to do them, then you definitely can check that out. But essentially, in the video, in one of the stages, she was speaking of a stage wherein, you have lost everything from your past self is completely gone, and you no longer relate to anything. You're in this phase where now no longer are you able to operate with the 3D matrix conditioning that you have had, and also you have not completely arrived at the new you. Like many of you speak of the 5D and the 4D and these other dimensions. And what when you are in a transition phase, when you don't really know the new you, and or maybe the new you is not even somebody who is identified with anything, somebody who just goes with the flow of life, but the old you was very overly identified with everything. You can go through a very difficult process when this identity loss is happening. And I just want to speak about this at this point of time, that majorly on the inside, when we are losing this identity of us, we can feel very afraid that no longer are we conforming to the expectations of the society. So no longer are you able to make people around you happy. People around you will be happy if they see you stuck in the same ways. That is the comfort level that they know. So they know that, your parents will expect you, for instance, to continue to be the way you are, to live your life as you're living. If you are married, then to stay in that marriage. If you have a job which is paying the bills, or is just financially very rewarding for you, then to stay in that job. If you have a certain way of living, then just to have that way of living, right? So because that is the person that they know, and they themselves haven't gone through this spiritual awakening, so they expect you to toe the line, and rightly so, based on their interpretations of what life is, right? They don't expect you to feel differently, to think differently, to question everything, because they haven't questioned it themselves. So how can they know? It's there is a saying in Hindi which is a very funny saying. It suddenly is coming to me, and I'm also a little woozy because of just having caught viral right now, and not really being feeling very well with fever and cough and an infection in the throat. So essentially, this is a very funny saying, which goes, "Bandar kya jane adrak ka swad." So those of you who understand Hindi will understand it. It basically means that how will a monkey know what ginger tastes like? And will a monkey be able to appreciate the taste or the pungent, flavor of ginger? Not, absolutely not, right? It's just basically that For them it would be something extreme, something very pungent, and it will not be that flavorful, powerful, potent flavor of ginger, which is very healing, and it has its own taste, right? And its own sort of it's a qualified kind of a flavor, it's not a regular pleasant flavor and stuff like that. So your family will wonder, why are you making these choices? Another thing that is coming to my mind is this book that I read many years ago, and I think it won the Man Booker Prize. This book was called The Vegetarian, and this was by, I don't know who this book was by. Yes, so it won the International Booker Prize, and it is by Han Kang. So I read this book when it came out. I would have read it many, many years ago, and I was amazed at this book. I just could not put it down. It seemed like such a horror book where this woman belongs to a South Korean culture where everybody is a non-vegetarian. But because of certain changes that she has, and a lot of changes could be linked to something psychological within her, she's no longer able to live the life that she had been living, so she becomes a vegetarian. Meat makes her very sick, and everybody thinks that she's lost it. They try to force feed her meat. Her husband doesn't get it. Her brother-in-law tries to like cheat her and or take advantage of her. Her sister doesn't understand her but is still protective of her. Her family just doesn't get it at all, and she's just made an outcast of sorts. But it's a very powerful novel. I mean, if you're into reading something, not averse to reading some dark things, like, because it tends to go on the dark a little bit, you know. But essentially, it spoke of how she could suddenly feel, like there is no difference between her and the tree, like the roots that are growing, um, from the tree are also reaching out to her, or in some sense, are the roots that even she is connected to. They're growing from her feet and all of that. So it's very powerful imagery, and spiritually, of course, in various cultures, like in Hinduism and in mysticism and in general spirituality, we know what she's going through. But it is so hard to explain it in that cultural context where the mainstream culture just does not get it. Right? So they brandish her as somebody completely going mad, but was she the one going mad, or was she just waking up? So she gets such a lot of flack for being this vegetarian. And this was a book I read, and I just realized, you feel a lot of pain for her. And it still strikes me that this is exactly, what spiritual awakenings look like, because in many ways you will no longer relate to who you were in the past. And it's not something, that you are morally being very upright about, or you're trying to say, I'm superior to you. Hey, I don't know. You don't know any better. Look at me, I'm becoming better. You don't develop a spiritual ego, which many people do, unfortunately. I see it sometimes on social media, like even spiritual ego is so common that people speak of, I am entering the new earth, and I am doing this, and this is the age of Aquarius, and I am going to do crazy great things, and you're still going to be stuck in karmic cycles. Of people who are stuck in karmic stuff, like they are not going to enter this age, and they are going to be this or that, or they are going to suffer, and I am the redeemed one. Do not fall for this trap ever, if you ever develop this, because you're not superior to anybody. The divine is present in everyone. It's just that you are awakening to that divinity. Does not mean that now you assume earlier you were feeling superior about how you looked, or the money you had, or um, something better you were doing than your siblings or your neighbors or people, and you just felt like, I'm the smartest or the greatest or better than most people right there. But now you're saying, I'm the spiritually more aware one. So you don't wish to develop this ego at all. This is going to be another trap for you to fall into. Basically, anytime you are spiritually growing, you only have love in your heart. You may have boundaries, but you will also have love in your heart for everyone, and understanding that ignorance is a lot of pain, especially if you move through, like this experience that I had was to see how conditioning started to impact me through various dreams. I went back to my childhood, and I vividly saw how conditioning was entering my mind and entering my life, and how it was like not breathing clean air but suddenly breathing a heavy air which is contaminated, and living in that and thinking this is the right air to breathe. But after the awakening, you rise up from this and now you can breathe the clean air again. So you have a lot of sympathy for the old you that used to breathe this heavy and contaminated air of conditioning and thinking that was real. And I felt a lot of pain at that time for the past self, that I used to be. So similarly, everyone else, when they are still in this ignorance, or and this is very, very painful. It's not something nice, it's not something that you feel superior about, but you have compassion for what they are going through, that they don't know any better, they don't know the infinity of who they are. All right, so there is no need to think that you're better, you're entering a better era and others are going to be left behind. Your endeavor should just be to always have love in your heart for everyone, and to just invite blessings for everyone, that everyone may do what is best for them, may have that experience of what their higher self wants them to have. All right. So, coming back to the point that I was speaking of, that when you're in this transition phase of not knowing who you are and your old self is dying, there can still be some fears, that are lurking behind the fear of, I don't know who I am anymore. What about my new identity? Who am I? What am I going to become? I don't even know who I am. Will I ever have anything new? And I'm leaving so many people behind. I'm disappointing people. I feel guilty that, people are not going to be able to relate to the old me. I'm no longer a part of the way others are thinking, the societal conditioning, and the expectations people have of me. I'm no longer able to meet those expectations. So, I mean, it is such a sad feeling that many of you can have deep within you, especially of disappointing other people and somewhere feeling that you're leaving people behind. And this is where I want to tell you that you should definitely, if you're going through this and if you found this, then this is why I have probably made this, recording. And this is to tell you that, tell yourself, that first of all, let yourself experience what you're experiencing, feel those feelings and breathe them out completely. And then, very importantly, tell yourself that you may no longer be in the company of people that you used to, know in that way, in a way where you deeply, deeply connect with them, but you will be in the company of saints, of sages. So you can always tell yourself of the people that you really look up to, enlightened beings, divine beings, and you can say, I will be in the company of them. All right. And it does not mean that I'm closing my heart off to people around me. It just means that I will find new ways to relate to their soul and not just to the identities that they have created. Earlier, my relationship with people around me was with, the identity that I had and the identity that they had, of maybe, let us say, me being a daughter, or they being my father or my mother, or, me being a friend or a sister, or they being, they relating to me in that aspect of having these identities. And the commonality we had was based on our shared likes and dislikes, or on the relationships that we had by blood, or by just distance, maybe we lived next to each other or whatever. But now the relationships I will build are going to be expansive and not limited by the identities that I have, because I'm losing all those identities. So, a new way for me to connect with everyone is going to come from my heart. It's going to come from maybe an inclusiveness, towards everything and everyone. It's no longer going to be important for me to like somebody because I have something in common with them, but I can like and I can love everyone around me. So, this is where I'm headed right now, and the company I will have will be the company of sages. I'm joining some great enlightened beings out there that have lived throughout history, that have contributed to the ascension of earth at various points of time, in their lives and even after. And I am going to join them in some ways. I know I'm headed in that direction even though right now I feel very like I'm in the flux, but I know where I'm headed is there. All right. So I no longer will partake in limited identities, but I'm happy to let those go. So, this part of you that is feeling identity less, that is feeling like I can't relate to my old self and I don't know who my new self is, it basically needs your acceptance, because many others are going to reject this part of you, and because of the external locus of control we have in because of our conditioning and the remnants of it thereof, you tend to still think that you need this acceptance from other people. You still need your family to validate how you are transforming. But the idea is that you don't need anybody's validation but your own. So, this is the point where you say, I accept you exactly as you are. If you don't know who you are, I accept you as not knowing who you are. I accept you in this phase where we are moving towards a different place, where we don't know where we are headed. We don't know what the future is going to look like. But I accept you 100% in this phase just as you are. Alright? This is what you have to do, and you have to give to yourself. And this is also how you take your power back. You no longer feel like you're depending on other people's approval or acknowledgement or acceptance of you, but you're now able to do that for yourself. You're able to offer this acceptance and love to yourself. And this is where now you are really, really quickening your process, at least, because you're no longer going to just prevail in that fear, or, in that energy of the darkness of like um, just pain and suffering, and, this feeling of guilt, of shifting, of changing, and leaving people behind. It's very good to recognize these feelings within you, to be in awareness. Sometimes you have to shift your awareness to how you're feeling, and to um, acknowledge, how you're feeling, that maybe sometimes you could be feeling a certain way, but you're distracting yourself from feeling that way. But it's amazing that if you can move away from distracting yourself and instead shift into looking at what is it that you're truly, truly feeling within you at all points of time, to check in with you, with yourself, rather than distracting yourself with YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, right? So that's all I wanted to share with you all. I hope you're all doing really, really well otherwise. And, have a beautiful, wonderful day. Sending you lots of love. Bye.